Hey guys, it's Sithlord. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Firebats skill, which you summon a swarm of fiery bats to burn enemies for 180% weapon damage. This skill is a lot like Disintegrate, where it's a kind of cast and hold spell. It's great for a bunch of enemies that are short to medium range in distance. It's also a great barrel breaker. The disadvantage is that it costs a fair amount of mana, at 98 per second. So, although it's a really good spell, it's much better on lower monster powers because you will need to kill enemies fairly quickly so that you can regenerate your mana so that you can cast it again. So it does a fair amount of damage, and overall is a pretty good spell. The first rune choice is Dire Bats. Now Dire Bats completely changes the dynamic of the skill, because instead of sending forth a whole bunch of fiery bats, it summons one bat that does additional damage at 220%, but can go up to 40 yards. So that's what it looks like, and the thing that's nice about this is you can now keep your distance. You no longer have to hold the button down. You can cast it as often as you'd like. But you no longer have to focus solely on just spamming the spell for it to be effective. And you know what? It's still a pretty good barrel breaker. It does have a little bit of randomness to it, and it is still a very mana intensive spell. So as you can see, that is the single drawback to the skill, or the most significant drawback is the fact that it's mana intensive. So if you're going to use this skill, I would suggest using something such as Vision Quest, so that you can be able to spam it a little more often. Vampire Bats is the next rune, which is just like the normal spell, but it gives you 2.5% lifesteal. The reason I don't like this skill is the 2.5% is only 0.5% in Inferno, so it all depends on your DPS. My DPS is only 41,000, so it means that each... well, let's look at this on a per attack basis instead. On a per attack basis, my damage is about 30,000. So since Firebats deals 180% damage, it's about 55,000 damage that is being dealt for each enemy hit. And so the 0.5% does not equate to a whole lot of damage. And so as a result, I stay away from this rune, although it can be a very effective rune, depending on your DPS. Unfortunately for any viewers, I have a significant amount of lifesteal as well, or lifeline hit rather, and so it's going to be difficult in order to show the true effectiveness of a lifesteal. I'm actually going to get my Gargantuan out in dealing with these guys. So you can see my health regenerating quite a bit, but a lot of that is more due to the lifeline hit that I have, rather than the lifesteal associated with the bats. So let's go to town and check out our next turn. The next turn is Plague Bats. Instead of being Firebats, they're now plagued, so it's poison damage rather than fire damage. I don't like the skill, and the reason being is because the damage increases over time. And for the most part, I'm just not a fan of those type of skills because it becomes much more mana intensive. The other thing that I don't like about it is it doesn't show you graphically when the damage has increased, when the damage percent has increased, to know when you're doing lower damage and when you're doing greater damage. You literally have to just be based on dealing with the damage numbers. As you can tell, this is another ring that I'm not overly impressed with, but we will use it in order to take out these guys anyways. And then we'll go back to town and we'll try out another one of the Alright. Hungry Bats is the next one. This has the highest damage potential, and it's great for single targets as it is 350% weapon damage. And now the bats are, they seek out targets. So it's only one bat, but anybody nearby and it will automatically target that enemy. Now we just need to find some enemies. So this is a great single target skill. The mana, it isn't overly mana intensive, and it'll allow you to spam it at least for a second. So overall, a good single target skill, but if this is what you were looking for an AoE skill, it definitely leaves things to be desired. The last kill is Cloud of Bats. So this is another increased damage over time skill, where it starts out at 234% and goes up 20% for 5 seconds until it is 334%. The other aspect that I should really mention, the reason I really don't like this skill is, as you can see briefly, the bats swirl around you. And so this is a close range spell. Rather than the ranged counterpart spells. So if you can just sit here and deal damage, then you'll deal a fair amount of damage. So for that reason, like, there's no way that on 1 to power 1, these type of enemies should be doing a fair amount of damage to me. But because of the fact that I'm my character's not built that way, and it's a close range spell, I avoid this skill completely. So anyways, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave any comments or questions below, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.